Very good. OK, the next question, different subject, from Colin Lee.
Thank you, Tony. Mike Cannon Brookes, you once tweeted that the best way to fight climate change is to treat it like business. And you also believe that renewable energy sources such as solar and wind energy or power could replace Australia's $70 billion coal industry. My question is for the panel, where do things stand now, and what should our government and our country's innovation vision look like in the near future? Thank you.
We'll start with you, Mike.
Thanks, Colin. Where do things stand now? Good question.
Especially after the North Queensland backlash.
Well, we had, look, the Minister for Emissions Reduction celebrated his first week by putting out our emissions numbers that have gone up for the 4th year in a row. So, fantastic, great move. Well done, Angus, because that was a good start to his career as a Minister for Emissions Reduction. I think, look, as you mentioned with the election, we're probably not going to see a lot of political change in the next few years when it comes to climate change. And that's not just energy, although that's the biggest sector of our emissions, right? Agriculture, transportation, there's a whole series of sectors we have to look at to make change as such an existential issue. We're going to need corporates. So, at Atlassian, we've joined this group called RE100 to pledge to go 100% renewable, which is not a simple challenge. 3,500 staff, 7 different countries, 10 different offices. We now have 3 of the top 25 companies in Australia have joined the RE100. So you're seeing corporations realise not only is this a huge moral issue, it's a huge financial issue for them, it's a huge ethical issue. So 3 of Australia's top 25 companies have now said they're going to go 100% renewable. So you're going to see corporate sector have to take a lot more control, I think, and a lot more charge of the issue.
You're pretty hooked into global markets. The question was about the replacement of the coal industry. Where is coal going from your perspective?
It's going away. Quite simply. Look, I mean, it depends on the protection you look at.
Even massive markets still in China, in India.
China and India are both peaking in their coal usage. They've had massive run-ups in the last 5 to 10 years. You see that already tailing off in China. I think it's going to continue. I mean, coal's future as an energy source, 15, 25 years, it doesn't matter. If you're from Australia, and I think it's a $70 billion industry for us. It's a massive, massive industry, and it's going away. Call it 50 years. We should be planning for that now, right? We need to plan people's transition and their jobs, their livelihoods. We need to plan our economic transition. We can't just stick our head in the sand and assume it's not going to happen.
If you're right about the curve of demand in China and India, what happens when the curve goes down the other side?
It's pretty brutal for us, because I think what you'll see is China and India will naturally prop up their local coal market. They'll support a local coal producer. That will not be good for us. So you won't see... The long-term future for that as an energy source is not good, which is an economic issue for us. Put climate change aside for a second, which is sort of insane to say. From a company point of view, as Australia, we have a huge economic problem there, and we need to do something about that. We have a lot of possibilities, but denying it's going to happen is the worst possible strategy.
Larry, what do you think about that?
We need a plan. So there is a global market.
Saying we don't have a plan currently?
Actually, CSIRO has 3 plans.
I mean the government.
Well, like ABC, CSIRO is independent of the government, but we have 3 plans for the energy transition. The problem, as Mike said, if you add up coal, LNG and iron ore, because without coal you can't make steel out of iron ore, it's $160 billion of export revenue. More importantly, it's a third of all corporate tax paid in the country. So the taxes that pay for healthcare, education, social services. So we can't lose that tax base. We need something to replace it, but at the same time, there's a global market trend away. So CSIRO has been working on some breakthrough science and technology, something I prepared earlier. we think one option is this device which we call the hydrogen cracker.
Turn it on.
So basically,
Stole it from the Doctor Who.
not in a
set,
closed room. But basically, you can put a liquid fuel, ammonia, which has no carbon in it and therefore no emissions. You can pump a liquid fuel inside this and get pure hydrogen out the other side. So it's literally a seamless transition from ammonia to hydrogen. You can use all of the liquid fuel infrastructure around the world. You can fill a ship with ammonia, ship it, for example, to Japan, and then use it there as a purely 100% renewable fuel. And we invested in this because we think it could go some of the way to replacing the fossil fuel exports and paying the taxes that we need.
Larry, you got something else in your pocket, have you? You know, this is like Parliament. We don't allow props.
I might
snuck
have
them on board.
I might
All
have.
out.
You know, we talk about solar panels, and the solar cell design that's being shipped by China all around the world was actually invented in Australia. So I'd kind of like to do something a bit different, a homegrown solar cell that we can produce here through 3D printing.
Oh, cool.
Rather than buying it in from overseas. Now, look, I'm not a close the gate person, but when you've got this massive export revenue, you need to replace it with something in order to continue to grow our economy. So Cyro's plan has us going to carbon neutral without derailing the economy, and that's the important thing. That's the challenge we're trying to solve.
Larry, I'm bound to ask you the obvious question, which is that the CSIRO was given vast sums of money to produce clean coal technology, and that happened under the Howard government. There was more money to create an institute to do that under the Rudd government. Is there any such thing as clean coal technology?
Look, if we have a lot of coal, and if you could use science to do the impossible, the seemingly impossible, and turn coal into something that didn't emit greenhouse gases, we would do it. I will tell you, we have created a version of coal that has 30% less emissions than a gasoline engine. So that's a great step, but it's not zero, whereas hydrogen, we believe, can go to zero. I'll give you one more. Can I do one more?
Yes, you go.
You have to be quick. You'll give you 30
It's really
seconds.
quick. So the cattle industry is 10% of Australia's emissions. We invented a feed supplement that eliminates all greenhouse gas emissions, virtually eliminates them from cattle.
So it takes. You're saying it takes away flatulence.
Tony, it's belching.
Cows burp and
It's not.
fart.
it's
They really
belching.
do.
Belching.
So do humans.
That's another part of flatulence.
Common misconception.
I think flatulence covers
There's
belching.
a cover burping.
I think so.
But I don't have a cow in my bag, no.
Adam, I think you want to jump in there, but I'm not sure why.
No, I was just looking at all these gadgets. That's all right.